What's going on, everybody? It's Dillon James right here on JDF Sports to bring you all the latest and the greatest in the NFL. I'm your host, Dillon James. We have a lot to discuss tonight, a lot to jump into. Week 7 has come and gone. We are now into Week 8. We're almost halfway through the NFL season. We're getting closer and closer to the halfway mark, and some teams are starting to gain some steam. Some teams are starting to get better out there to widen the gap they have in their division. Some other teams are dropping to the wayside. My Titans are being one of those teams, which we'll discuss later on in the show. We have a lot to discuss tonight in Week 7 and also going into Week 8 of the NFL, a good slate of games coming up this weekend. But we'll be discussing Mike Evans, his almost season-ending surgery, his season-ending injury. Looks like he'll be out the most of the season, if not the rest of the season this year. Jaxon Smith-Njigba emerging as the wide receiver 1 in Seattle with Sam Darnold there at the helm. Dre Greenlaw getting suspended 1 game after a confrontation he had with a referee. Also, Packers-Steelers showdown. Aaron Rodgers playing up against his former team for the first time since he left Green Bay. We'll also have a Titans update. We'll also be talking about some of the games that happened in Week 7 and also talking about Week 8 and a game to watch in Week 8. So thanks for joining us this evening. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also subscribe to the audio version of this podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, all the major podcasting platforms, we are there. Also, if you're watching us live here on YouTube, welcome. Feel free to hop in the chat. We'd love to get your questions here. It is going to be me tonight, solo, dolo, right here for Out of Bounds. So feel free to shoot me any of your questions you have about your favorite sports team, about your favorite NFL team. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. This week has been interesting over the past 7 to 10 days in Nashville. Titans are still looking very, very bad. Mike Vrabel came into town and whooped the Titans like many people thought they would. 31-13 at home, which we'll get more into later on in the show. The Nashville Predators, though, however, have also started the season. They started the season 2-0-1, and they've lost the last 3 games, I believe, that they've played. So they're 2-3-1 at this point. Doesn't look like they're going to be changing their ways from last season. Unfortunately, Andrew Burnett not looking like the guy there in Nashville. I kind of called it last year, talked about Burnett a little bit last year and said, I don't think it's working out. I don't think it's working out for Burnett in Nashville. Hopefully, Barry Trotz will come to that realization sooner rather than later and find a new head coach. But I cannot live in a city where we have 2 major sports programs, 2 major sport teams in the city, and both of them being miserable to watch. It's not fun. Hopefully Mike McCoy can right the ship with the Titans a little bit, make it to where it's at least more enjoyable to watch the progress of Cam Ward in the Titans offense. I don't see that type of progress happening with Andrew Burnett and this Nashville Predators team that I've been watching the past few games. Very slow. The veterans are not scoring goals like they're supposed to be. The young guys aren't getting enough ice time. Brady Martin just got sent down to the OHL. I know this is a lot of gobbledygook for a lot of you that listen to the show because of the NFL, which we'll get into in just a moment. But I just had to, voice that concern I have about my favorite sports teams here in Nashville. Nashville SC, however, has been doing very, very well. Hopefully they can continue to do so in the MLS Cup going into the playoffs this year after they won the Lamar Hunt Open Cup. So hopefully Nashville SC will continue to be good. Charlie and Dad page on YouTube is chiming in saying it's still Chiefs era. Everyone counting out the Chiefs. We have the most potent offense since the days of Prime, Kelsey, and Hill. Chiefs are fast, very fast. And yes, I will agree with you. The Chiefs are not, they were down, but they were not out at the beginning of the season. Xavier Worthy, though, going down with an injury in that game, not good. Rashee Rice did come back, had a good game. We talked about it a little bit last week. how he would come back and how that would affect the offense, and we saw how it would affect the offense. Put up a 0 burger on the Raiders. They were unable to score any points against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs just laid it on. 31-0 was the final score. And that's the kind of return that we would hope Rashee Rice would have. I think he had, 3 touchdowns in this game? Yeah, very, very good offense for Kansas City Chiefs. For those of you hoping for the downfall of the Chiefs, it's not going to happen this season, at least, because they look very, very, very good. He also said, I wish Chiefs could face the Raiders 18 times a year. I'm sure most teams, other than the Saints, the Titans, and the Cardinals, would say the same. However, the Raiders would probably have a shot to win against those 3 teams. So, unfortunately for those teams, including my lowly Titans this season. But yes, the Chiefs are looking very good in the AFC. AFC is pretty wide open this year too. Looks like the Ravens are not doing well. Even though Lamar Jackson is back on the practice field, he started practicing today. So this is the first time he's come back on the field since his injury. So we might see a return of Lamar Jackson either this week or next, which I'm sure the Baltimore Ravens would be welcoming Lamar Jackson back with open arms after what they've seen the past couple of weeks for the Ravens offense. Just not looking too hot. Not looking too hot without Lamar there. And Lamar is carrying that team when he's on the field. So speaking of missing time, Mike Evans this past weekend, it was really tough to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers only putting up 9 points. This team has been used to putting up points this season so far. NFC, they were the ones leading the way, and unfortunately this weekend, Mike Evans went down with a broken clavicle. It sounds like he will miss most of the season, if not all of the rest of the regular season anyway. So now it pretty much boils down to Emeka Egbuka. Egbuka is the guy now to be the wide receiver 1 there in the Tampa Bay offense. And the real question is, can he be slotted into that spot this early in his career? He's a rookie coming in. He's done well opposite side of Mike Evans throughout this season so far, but can he take over Mike Evans' shoes? I like Emeka Egbuka. I like him a lot. I'm not sure if he can slot in and just be the guy instantaneously for the Buccaneers. Yes, he's done a great job. Like I said, with Mike Evans out there, he's not getting double teamed. He's actually having some wide open looks, Egbuka is, with Mike Evans on the field. But past that, who else is there for the Buccaneers until Chris Godwin comes back? Bucky Irving is out as well, injured. Chris Godwin is still out. He might be coming back within the next 2 or 3 weeks, I would assume, but that's still up in the air. So if Emeka Egbuka is the only guy out there on the field, I find it very, very hard for them to keep going at the pace they were going before this game this past weekend. Egbuka has 527 yards total this season, 17 yards per reception, and 5 touchdowns. Sounds like good numbers through 7 weeks. However, versus the Lions this weekend, which Mike Evans went out pretty early in this game in the first half, he had 4 receptions on 12 targets, 58 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Can that be a sign to come for Egbuka in this offense? He only had 30 yards of that 58, came off of 1 reception in this game, mind you. So 3 receptions for 28 yards total after that 1 big reception of 30 yards. It's very hard for me to believe that he can continue that way. I know it is the Lions. The Lions they have a good defense. I wouldn't say they have a great defense. They are starting to look like the defense that we were expecting the Lions to have coming into the season. And this is a really big test for the Buccaneers. So it's good to have that test early, and they can make the changes they need to make for them to become NFC contenders throughout the rest of the season. But again, these injuries just keep piling up. The Lions had the lion's share, for lack of a better phrase, of injuries last season as well. This season they do too. So can this team overcome that? I hope Egbuka can. I like Egbuka. I think he's a great wide receiver, but I still think it might be a little too early for wide receiver 1. Charlie said, real quick, hope you are doing well with Dillon. Also wish Fitz and company are doing well also. Yes, they are. I know Fitz has been trying to do shows here and there. I'm sure he'll be doing some more shows on the channel soon, so keep an eye out for that, but we appreciate the well wishes. Contract year also for Mike Evans, and that is correct. It is an end of a streak as well. Mike Evans had a streak of 1,000-yard receiving seasons. I forgot how many. I believe it's been his entire career. But that ends this year because of injury, which is terrible for Mike Evans and his legacy. I mean, he still will have that legacy of having so many 1,000-yard seasons in a row, 11 times out of something. But yes, it does suck for Mike Evans, especially if he wants to continue being a productive wide receiver, and also if he want to stay in Tampa Bay. I'm sure that Tampa Bay would love to have him back, but this injury is really going to damper things if he can't come back. And we all know that coming back from an injury, regardless of what it is, coming back from an injury past the age of 30, it's harder and harder for those players to do so. Yeah, 11 times total. So 11 times he's gone 1,000 yards receiving, which is a phenomenal feat in the NFL these days, especially with how fast and how hard and how physical the game is these days. Mike Evans has always been a constant for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and hopefully he can continue to do so after this injury. And I'm sure that Baker Mayfield would love to have him back on the field as his number one wide receiver. Tied with Jerry Rice. Yes, that's a good point there. Can Sterling Shepard fill the void? Only concern I have, Sterling Shepard, I keep going back to the Sterling Shepard with the Giants. And all the change, I know they had a lot of change up there. I know that, Daniel Jones, what have you. You had Daniel Jones, though. You do see what he's doing in Indianapolis with the Colts now. He's 6-1. Leading that team in the AFC. He's one of the best. They're one of the best teams in the AFC currently. Doesn't look like they have any sign of slowing down. And Sterling Shepard wasn't really as effective as he was early in his career there in New York. So I'm hesitant to say that Sterling Shepard can step in as wide receiver 2 for this team. Depending on when Chris Godwin comes back, depending on other factors in this team, if there are other injuries potentially at the wide receiver position, or if somebody else like a running back or a tight end could potentially slot in as one of those wide receivers to help as a pass catching threat. You might even look at the trade market before the trade deadline for the Buccaneers. I think you have a really, really good team in Tampa. Defense, it's not the best, obviously. There are a lot of shootouts that this team goes into week in and week out that we've seen so far this season, especially looking at the Philadelphia Eagles game where they almost came back in that game, but they allowed Philadelphia to score a lot of points against that team. So I really do see Tampa Bay pushing their chips in at some point. Would it be too early for them to look at a wide receiver in the trade market, especially if Chris Godwin's coming back? I still don't think so. I think that it would probably behoove them to look at the market to see who's out there potentially that could help. Because, we've seen Chris Godwin. He has had injury issues over the past couple of years. Mike Evans being down for most of the season, if not all the season now. So you're only down to 2 of your top 3 wide receivers. It might behoove them to get a wide receiver there. Charlie and Dad Page, this is true. Jones looks great. Does help that Jones has Jonathan Taylor, though, which I might add is potentially going to win them the Triple Crown for running back. I can see that too. I think that Jonathan Taylor is a great running back. I still think that Tampa Bay has a pretty good running back room as well with Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. I think those guys are really good, especially when Bucky Irving comes back. That backfield can be very, very potent, I believe. So they still have a good run game in Tampa. But yes, Jonathan Taylor is, based on yards per game, currently, Jonathan Taylor's the best running back in the league. I think he's averaging over 100 yards rushing per game. He looks very good in this offense. And Daniel Jones is definitely benefiting from Jonathan Taylor and vice versa. I think both of those guys working together has made it to where this Colts team is pretty formidable so far early on in the season. Talking about wide receiver options, A.J. Brown being disgruntled in Philadelphia, not having enough targets compared to what he expects to see in that offense. Obviously, Jalen Hurts not going to throw the ball as much as A.J. Brown wants him to every game, week in and week out. Having that, maybe he does have that mindset of, if I want to prove myself as a top wide receiver in this league and also look at my legacy after I leave the game, A.J. Brown I'm assuming would want to look at Hall of Fame career at that point. Can he reach that mark in the Philadelphia Eagle offense? I think that's definitely a great question. I could see A.J. potentially wanting to get out. As of yet, he has not asked for a trade or anything in Philadelphia. I don't think it's going to be in the middle of the season. I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are going to allow him to leave. Similar to what we saw in Tennessee, they saw what happened when a team lets go of A.J. Brown and what happens when A.J. Brown gets to that next team. It definitely, early on for A.J. Brown in Philadelphia, it looked really, really good. They just need to get back to a more balanced attack with Jalen Hurts actually throwing the ball down the field to his number one wide receiver, and not just Devonta Smith. I think that's I think A.J. Brown definitely needs to be in the mix there in Philadelphia. DJ Moore with Chicago, I still think that's a safety blanket for Caleb Williams. I don't think that he's going to be moved. If I were looking at both of those two, I would say A.J. Brown's probably more inclined to be traded than DJ Moore is. I think DJ Moore has a really, really good position there in Chicago, and I think if he continues to play with Chicago this season, if he wants to look at another team elsewhere after the season, kind of like a Deebo Samuel kind of situation, because DJ Moore has been all over the field for that offense in Chicago so far, and so I think that he could definitely have a contract or a deal in place similar to what Deebo had. Get an extension there in Chicago, ask for more money. If not, then potentially go to a team that would use him similar to a Deebo Samuel, like when he left and went to Washington instead of being in San Francisco. So, there's some good options out there. I think that there are some trade partners, but on a contender that way, even though AJ's not getting the ball every single game, 5 to 10 times a game, they still want him there as a safety blanket for the playoffs. If the run game gets shut down in Philadelphia, they'll need to throw the ball, and A.J. Brown was there for them last year in the playoff run. Early on in the season last year, he was there for them a lot, and so I think that they'll definitely want to keep him around. So it's very hard for me to see a situation where A.J. Brown and or DJ Moore get traded before the end of the season. But those are good names, though. Good names, though. They would be good options for them, especially in Tampa, but they have to look at contracts, too, because they can't keep those guys forever. It'd have to be like a loner pick at this point until Mike Evans gets back, and potentially looking at if you want to keep Mike Evans or you want to keep one of those guys instead. That would be the conversation they'd have to have in the offseason. Caleb hasn't really utilized him. Caleb has eyes on Rome Odunze. However, I haven't really watched a bunch of Bears this year. I'm basing my theory off of strictly fantasy football, and that's a tough thing to do as well. Fantasy football this season, and especially last season too, not very good to watch fantasy football and understand the utilization of players, because it just for some reason in my money leagues I keep losing, but then in the leagues I'm doing for free, I'm the number one team in my fantasy league. So I'm not really sure if fantasy is the best barometer there, but he does like Rome Odunze. I think that DJ Moore is still trying to figure out. They're still trying to figure out the best way to utilize DJ Moore, because they want to keep his speed on the field, want to keep his playmaking on the field. But I'm sure that Ben Johnson has plays written up for DJ Moore. There have been some plays so far this season. I'm sure it'll be more and more as the team progresses this year. They'll be able to spread the ball around a bit. Let's look at this. So speaking of wide receivers, Seattle has a wide receiver in Jaxon Smith-Njigba, rookie from last year, and he is looking very, very good for the Seattle Seahawks so far. 3 straight 100-yard receiving games for the second-year wide receiver. 100-plus yards in 5 of 7 games this season. He's currently on pace for 1,989 receiving yards this year, which would surpass Calvin Johnson's 2012 record of 1,964 receiving yards in a season, and would also bump his now teammate Cooper Kupp down to third most receiving yards in a season. I'm not sure what that total was. It was like 1924 or something along those lines. Crazy numbers for Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Crazy numbers for Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold he's proving to us this year that last year was not a fluke, that last year just wakened the beast inside of him when he was there in Minnesota, which shows you that Kevin O'Connell truly is one of the great quarterback whisperers in this league. He has Carson Wentz out there for the Minnesota Vikings currently as a starting quarterback. He's looked pretty good so far. I'm not saying he's peak Carson Wentz like we saw in Philadelphia, especially his rookie season up until that injury, and Nick Foles took him to the Super Bowl. But I still think that Carson Wentz is looking really good so far in that Minnesota offense. But Sam Darnold has had a resurgence at quarterback, and I'm sure the Jets fans are distraught, beside themselves, to see the success that Sam Darnold's had so far. I'm sure Panthers fans are very, very upset of how much success you've seen Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield have, because both of those guys were on the same team in Carolina just a few short seasons ago. It just goes to show you, once you get a quarterback in the right system and they are able to translate their skills and their experience into the NFL, translate that college experience into the NFL, and showcase their talents, the sky's the limit. Baker Mayfield looks great. I think that at this point in his career, if he went anywhere else, he would still be as effective as he is in Tampa Bay today. He's just a dog. D-A-W-G. Baker Mayfield is a dog. Sam Darnold has turned into that dog. He's a great teammate, it looks like. Everyone around him loves him. Great leader in the locker room. Veteran presence at this point in his career, and Seattle is doing some great things so far there. They're tied for first place in the NFC West, and that's something that people weren't really expecting after Geno Smith left. And the defense was going to be good there because of the new second-year head coach there, Mike McDonald. But I think that Sam Darnold's looking really good there in Seattle, and hopefully he'll be able to continue that moving forward. Yeah, the amazing Charlie and Dad page says, yes, for Jaxon Smith-Njigba having the numbers he's had so far, I think that he can definitely break Calvin's record this year. And, even he could potentially look at 2,000 yards in a season, barring injury, which hopefully, knock on wood, he does not have any injuries, and we do see some of that history, unfold before our eyes here in the 2025 season. Darnold was an unfortunate statistic of New York Jets, and a lot of people would say that. I saw a video earlier. Jets are 0-7 this year with Aaron Glenn as their new head coach, first-year head coach. It was a TikTok about this kid who was walking out in the Jets game, and this reporter walks up and says, what do you think about the Jets so far? Tell me about the Jets. He said, we are the worst. He said, I was born into this. I did not pick this team. I'll always root for the Jets, but we are just so bad. It's just rough for the Jets. Aaron Glenn having a lot of success in Detroit and coming over to the Jets, and it just seems like that's where all the good coaches go to die. Hopefully we'll see Robert Saleh get a new position soon. He's having a resurgence in San Francisco once again with their defense. I think that you go to the Jets, you hit that rock bottom, and you go somewhere else, and the sky's the limit at that point. You can only go up from there once you leave the Jets organization. And I'm sure Robert Saleh will have another shot at a head coaching job in the future, maybe even this next round. Maybe even the Titans might look at Robert Saleh as a head coach. I'm sure they will call him in the offseason to see if they can kick the tires there for Robert Saleh. There it is. I hate the Jets. I was born into this. That was the quote from the kid. Unfortunate. Rough for the Jets. But in Jaxon Smith-Njigba, I think he can go really far in this offense. Sam Darnold has his wide receiver number one, and it would be great to see a wide receiver break that streak, especially how long it's been. It's been 13 years since Calvin Johnson set that record in receiving yards. It'd be great to see Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I think he's on pace for like about 10 touchdowns this season as well. So really, really good. Really good numbers for Jaxon Smith-Njigba so far. Charlie and Dad says, speaking of San Francisco, bold take, Kyle Shanahan deserves front runner of Coach of the Year. Another guy. It's a quarterback whisperer. People talk about it being his system. I don't care what it is at this point. You have Mac Jones, former first rounder, went to New England, had a great rookie season, sophomore season, had a sophomore slump, got traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, played a little bit down there, but not much. Trevor was the main guy down there in Jacksonville. Then he goes to San Francisco, and I've talked about Kevin O'Connell having reclamation projects left and right, Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, and now with Carson Wentz, all these guys. But yes, I completely agree. Kyle Shanahan definitely deserves to be in the conversation there. It seems like he always has a really, really rough hand that he's dealt every single season. Last year, everybody was going down with an injury. CMC didn't look like he was going to come back, which he didn't last season, which he came back for like a game or two, got injured again, then was out for the rest of the year. Came back this year with a vengeance, and he has not slowed down yet so far. So CMC's looking great. San Francisco offense, again, very, very potent so far. It will be even more potent once George Kittle comes back from injury, which I believe is happening this week. So San Francisco, watch out for them. They might go back to the NFC Championship game like we've seen them do numerous times under Kyle Shanahan. Charlie and Dad, injuries everywhere, and he's having to coach. He's coaching so well. He always does, it seems to be. He always does. Mac Jones is doing great in place of Brock Purdy. I've not heard any updates on Brock Purdy recently. I'm not sure if he is coming back soon. I'm not entirely sure. But as of right now, Mac Jones is looking good. I'm sure there are some teams out there watching tape each and every week to see, how well he's progressing, and if he's available next season, he might be picked up by somebody else to be a starting quarterback. San Francisco got all the Chiefs hand-me-down wide receivers. Yeah, Juwan Jennings is the only one, I guess you would say, is not. But Mecole Hardman, I believe, is over there in San Francisco. Yeah, they have some hand-me-downs there in San Fran. But Juwan Jennings had some injuries stuff this season as well. But again, they're keeping their head above water with these injuries. And as long as they can do that, they can do some good things as people get healthy, as they come back onto the roster, onto the depth chart, and then go into the playoffs and have some success there. So looking forward to that. Dre Greenlaw this weekend. They played up against the Giants. Greenlaw, it was his first game as a Bronco, speaking of former San Francisco Giants. San Francisco 49ers. Greenlaw, in his first game as a Bronco, he missed the preseason, missed the first 6 games of the season as well with a thigh injury. He got suspended after this week. As Charlie and Dad say, Greenlaw is a clown. Yep. He apparently had a verbal altercation with a referee. Said, quote from the NFL, Greenlaw chased after referee Brad Allen and verbally threatened him as he tried to leave the field on Sunday after the very, very close game against the Giants. And he got suspended for a game. He appealed it. The appeal was denied, and so now he will have 1 game suspension this weekend. Sean Payton was asked about it after practice today and said, we were clearly in his corner with the appeal. What normally has been a fine ended up being different. So, but again, we can't control that. So that was the quote from Sean Payton. Look, it might have been a fine in the past. We don't know what Greenlaw said to that referee. We don't know what warranted that 1 game suspension. I'm sure Sean Payton does not have the exact quote that Dre Greenlaw said to that referee. Only Brad Allen and only Dre Greenlaw are the guys who know exactly what was said between each other after that game. Emotions were high in that game. Very, very close game to the end of the game. I mean, it was back and forth the entire time. Dre Greenlaw getting a 1-game suspension. Hopefully this will be a sign for him not to do it again, not to go down that path again. But I think at a certain point, the NFL is trying to make a statement to say, hey, we know there are bad mistakes out there, or whatever happened between the referee and what happened in the game. You can't berate a referee. Similar to what a coach going out during a press conference and talking about officiating. You just can't do it. You can't do it. You just don't need to do it. And the only way you can prevent it from happening in the future is if you pass down a fine, or pass down, in this case, a suspension. And that will make it to where those players will no longer do that. And I think that it's the right thing for the NFL to do. I think that they, having an example out there of, hey, Dre Greenlaw did it. He got a game suspension. So watch out on Sundays, watch out on Mondays whenever you're playing. Don't be berating a referee. Like, don't chase a referee down after a game. What are you doing? What do you expect to happen in that moment? As players start streaming onto the field, cameras everywhere, game's over. What do you expect Brad Allen to do or say in that moment to make it better? There's nothing he can do at that point. The game is over. There was no flag. There was no timeout. There's no time left on the clock. Whatever. So yeah, I think the Greenlaw suspension is good. I think that that's something that, again, it's just an example for players out there to don't berate your referees. I mean, I think that's pretty simple to know when you're going into a game like that. Similar to, for a wide receiver, dropping the ball as they run towards the end zone, dropping the ball before they get across the line. Don't drop the football before you run through the end zone. I think it's pretty simple. It's common sense. So in this situation, don't berate a referee. If there's a decision you don't like, hold on to it. Talk, let off some steam afterwards in the locker room, what have you. But just don't berate a referee at the end of the day. So, next week, there's going to be a showdown that we have not seen yet. Since Aaron Rodgers left the Green Bay Packers, it will be Packers versus Steelers in the Steel City in Pittsburgh. And I'm excited for this game. I really am. I think this is a bounce back opportunity for the Steelers. I think the Steelers want to come into this game and win this game, especially after last week and the way they lost against the Bengals nonetheless. You lost against Joe Flacco and the Bengals. Joe Flacco was most recently with the Browns. He comes in second week starting for the Bengals, and Jamar Chase was everywhere. And that defense could not stop him. Defense could not stop Joe Flacco. So Steelers will go into this game. I think they will have winning on the mind. I think they will want to beat the Packers, similar to what we saw with the Titans and Patriots this weekend. People were asking Mike Vrabel, is this a revenge game for you? And he said, no, it's not a revenge game. It's just another game for me, for us to go out there and perform and get a win and keep going with this momentum. After the game, you know it's a revenge game for Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel went into Nashville saying, I'm going to go in here. I'm going to prove to them they made a mistake at letting me go. That's what happened in Nashville. 31-13 was the final score for the Patriots and Mike Vrabel. I see a similar scenario happening with the Packers and Steelers. Maybe not the score, but I have the mindset of this is a revenge game will be in the back of the mind of Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sure Steelers will want to play well for Aaron Rodgers in this game. Aaron Rodgers was asked about it, said, no, this is not a revenge game for me. Shooting down all those rumors. I just don't see it. I think at the end of the day, we will see a revenge game for Aaron Rodgers against the Packers. Packers are kind of circling the drain a little bit. I mean, they are 4-1-1 currently, but they haven't been playing up to the level that we expected them to be playing at, especially Jordan Love not having the best season so far. So we'll see how it goes. But we do have some Peepers picks in a little bit, which we'll talk about. I'm sure we will discuss that game a little bit as well. Last but not least, I do want to touch on the Titans. Not a lot because obviously we talked a lot about them, and they sucked this past weekend, needless to say. Even though the game was fairly close, I think it was 17-13 going into the half, so the Titans were in it, and then they weren't shortly after halftime. Lost 31-13. They also lost some players as well in this game. Jeffrey Simmons got injured. He's considered week to week, I believe, with a hamstring injury. L'Jarius Sneed has a quad injury. He is considered, Mike McCoy said that he will, quote, miss some time moving forward, which that's never a good thing to hear from a head coach about a player. So I'm sure we will not see L'Jarius Sneed for a while, maybe not even the rest of the season. We might have seen the last game of L'Jarius Sneed in Nashville, but we will keep an eye on that and give you the latest once we hear that. And Calvin Ridley did not practice once again for the Titans as well. So the wide receiver room is not looking too hot. Xavier Restrepo fans out there are wanting him to get called up from the practice squad to have a shot in this offense since there's nothing else to play for essentially this season. A lot of fans are throwing in the towel, which I do not blame them. I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying the Titans are going to be resurgent and get a playoff push. I'm just saying I want them to be at least somewhat competent on offense, score some points, win a couple games, and if they're in the lottery for the top 5 pick in the draft, I will not be upset. I think that we can definitely do some things with that pick, i.e. trade back and get a boatload of picks to fix all of the holes that we've had so far. Also, we traded Jarvis Brownlee Jr. 2-3 weeks ago, and he's looked very good for the Jets. So that's not good for the cornerback room for the Titans. Very, very weak there. It looks like excuse me. It looks like we have who is our corner that I'm thinking of? I'm drawing a blank. The Titans have a corner, a slot corner that is possibly on the trade block. So I don't know what's happening with the cornerback room. I'm not sure what's happening with our defensive line, especially the outside linebackers. We need those. We need some pressure on the quarterback, especially having Jeffrey Simmons out is not a good thing. L'Jarius Sneed being our lead corner being out is not a good thing for some time. So we'll see how the Titans look over the next couple of weeks. But now we can talk about what happened this past week. But I would like to be joined by none other than Alex Pieper with Pieper's Picks. And we'll talk about what happened last week with his picks. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Appreciate it.
Give us a synopsis of how your picks were this past week. I don't have the graphic updated. Wasn't sure if you would be able to join us, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on what happened last week.
Started out hot. Started out with the Bengals getting the cover on the spread. Well, they won the game. Great start. The Chiefs took them spread 12.5. Some thought maybe that's too many. No, proves not to be too many. 31-0, 93 total yards allowed to those Raiders. Are you kidding me? It's a Super Bowl team right there if I've ever seen one.
That was a lot.
Yeah. What was that? It was a lot?
No, it was a lot. I mean, it was a lot for the Raiders, but it wasn't a lot against
93? How many did the Titans let them have 2 weeks ago?
A lot.
Yeah.
It's Titans. It's fine.
I was really bummed about my Chargers bet. They will come alive. I will bet on them again this week in Peeper's Picks. Sad about that one. I can't even remember who I picked on Sunday Night Football. I'm pretty sure. Who was the Sunday night game? Can you remind me? I deleted it from the show sheet, unfortunately.
I actually deleted it from the show sheet, I believe. Let me look. Sunday Night Football. All the games are running together these days, especially if you're a Titans fan, you understand. Let's
see. It was Rams, Jaguars,
Correct.
Oh, no.
That was one game. Sunday night was Falcons, Niners.
Falcons, Niners. Okay. I don't know. I think I took Falcons on the show sheet. I did a live bet though on the 49ers, so makes up for it, but it doesn't count.
Not for the audience listening, but it's fine.
And then Bucks Lions. I took the Bucks. I thought, hey, the spread was too high. It was like 6.5, so I ended up 2-3. but this week will be better. Promised
We'll bounce
to everybody.
back.
You know, we need to have a 51%. That's how a better wins money. So
Yep.
that's all we gotta have.
Before we get to your Peepers picks, I'd love to get to the recap, a little bit of some of the other games that happened this weekend. Like you said, Chiefs Raiders 31-0. Charlie and Dad were on here just a little bit ago. I'm not sure if you heard it or not. We were discussing that game early on in the show. Chiefs fan as well, so he was very excited about that game. 31-0 against the Raiders. Raiders not putting up anything, and Pete Carroll is just circling the drain there in Las Vegas as well. Yeah. What takeaways did you have from this game?
You know, the defense looked great. I don't know. I mean, 93 total yards. I think there's not a lot of takeaways on the well, there's a lot of takeaways on the Raiders side, right? I think that, you know, after watching the game, we really, you can only say a lot about the Chiefs. I want to say, I think the Raiders have plenty of opportunity. I think Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He obviously thrived under Pete Carroll when he got promoted to a starter. I think it's there. He's thrown a lot. I mean, he leads the league in interceptions this year. I think he's thrown more. I think he's thrown double the amount of interceptions that he's thrown touchdown passes. I think they got to put him in play action more. They got to put him on the run, let him run the ball. I think I watched the last two Raiders games, and I don't think I saw Geno Smith get one rushing yard. I mean, put him on the run. I know he's an older guy, but, you know, put him on the run, put him on play action, let him maneuver around, let him do his thing. He hasn't succeeded over 100 passing yards or over 150. I mean, you count the Titans game 2 weeks ago. I think he had like 180, which is fine, but you know, Genty on that game produced.
No, they had 174. I think, didn't you say 175 plus in that game, or 200 plus in that game?
Yeah, you probably remember that because I needed to cover.
It's 174. And unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, we're playing against the Chiefs. We have a good rush defense. So Genty he stalled obviously. So you gotta figure it out. I think the Raiders have work to do. They obviously played the best team in the league, so it's hard to beat them.
The best 4-3 team in the league.
Oh yeah, the best 4-3 team in the league. On the Chiefs end, though, Rashee Rice's impact on the game, what we expected. Worried about Worthy. Hopefully he's fine. I know he came back in the game. Obviously, they pulled him because, they didn't want to risk him up, 20-0. Chris Jones had a bottle of whatever on the sideline. I don't know if it was vodka or wine, but he was drinking something on the sideline in the middle of the fourth quarter. No one came out and said what it was, but it was something. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes and the team faked out the Raiders in a quintessential play. I mean, come on. Like, this never fucking works. And then it hit, and then it works. Like, I thought that was brilliant. And he accredited it to all of his State Farm acting. Awesome. Love that.
He killed it.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, enough gloating about them.
I would say the Raiders were without Brock Bowers. Jacoby Myers as well didn't have a catch in this game. Oof. Which is rough. He did ask for a trade as well. He wants to be traded. I don't think he asked for one, but I think they asked it, would you want to be traded? And he said, yes, please. So that's not good for Myers there. Trey Tucker was the number one wide receiver for the Raiders at 33 receiving yards in this game.
Probably one play, right? One catch?
5 catches.
Oh,
6.6 yards per catch. Just killing it there with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Production.
So, Brock Bowers definitely is something that, they would hope he'd be in the lineup sooner rather than later. But for the Chiefs, they probably would have benefited from having him in the lineup at least. So that was a rough game for the Raiders, but Chiefs are looking like they're bouncing back into their Super Bowl winning ways. Speaking of another team that just has been booty cheeks this season, the Dolphins. Browns 31, Dolphins 6.
Is Mike McDaniel still working there?
He is. And the Dolphins front office has already come out. The ownership has come out saying that there is not necessarily they have come out, but I think there are inside sources saying there are no plans to make any changes at head coach.
There will be plans after 3 more straight losses if that's the case, or maybe even 2. If I think. I mean, I see what they're doing. They're taking the Giants approach with Dayball, which I respect. I think that is long overdue. People, administrations fire coaches way too quickly nowadays. So I actually am for this, but I don't think it'll hold up, just considering it's the NFL. You have to win games.
You have to win games. I think that if it was just one season, if it was just 7 games, that McDaniel has been having a rough go at it, the team's losing, what have you, sure, let's keep him.
Yeah.
Last year didn't look good either. So that's the only thing I have to say. Okay, they've given him a season and a half so far. Finish off this season, see what the record is, and then if you need to make a coaching change, do that. Open it up to where Mike McDaniel can come to Tennessee and be the offensive coordinator. Thank you so much. Browns, though, 31 points. Judkins had 3 rushing touchdowns in this game.
I needed Quinshawn to give me like 6 more yards. But yes, a great game. I mean, for them, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Dolphins just suck or on a bad streak. I don't know.
Having Tua out is not Tua. Having Cheetah out is not a good thing for them.
Yeah, true.
They need another number 1 wide receiver, and Waddle is just not it, obviously. So,
yeah, hopefully they rebound. I mean, I'm in Florida. I like Florida teams. I don't mind Tua. He's watch him at Alabama. He's a good quarterback. I hope the best for the Dolphins. I like Mike McDaniel as well. I watched the Hard Knocks a couple of years ago. The dude is definitely a trendsetter in the NFL. I'll say that.
Yep, for sure. Speaking of another team that played this weekend, the Rams played in London against the Jaguars and stomped, just obliterated the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were due for a game like this. We have not seen the Jaguars have a game like this season so far, but the Rams just took it to them, 35-7. Who cares if Puka Nacua is not out there? The Rams are going to beat you down with other wide receivers they have, and Kyron Williams. I think Matt Stafford, Kyron Williams had a great game.
I'm usually recovering from Saturday night watching college football all night, so I can't usually catch the London games. I did log on and watch the last fourth quarter, or the fourth quarter, and yeah, I mean, hey, I'm impressed by the win without Puka. Puka produces however many, like 100+ yards a game. I mean, if not that, it's 75+. I mean, he produces for them. I like Matt Stafford. Did you see the play in the huddle with Stafford? It was like some long play that McVay kept reading out to Stafford, and Stafford knew what it was in the huddle instantly, and McVay thought that Stafford didn't hear it, and so the camera is over. It's like over the huddle camera, and it's got Matthew Stafford literally looking at the offensive line, everybody being like, Jesus fuck, all right, it's gonna be a run up the middle, guys, come on, all right. And you can hear Sean McVay in the headset just replaying saying the play again and again. I just thought it was hilarious that they were doing this long comprehensive play, and Matthew Stafford's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey,
looking
go
good.
Rams. I'm for
looking
him.
good. I like the Rams.
Yeah.
I like the Rams.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence,
Absolutely.
23 of 48, 296 yards and a touchdown in this game. Got sacked 7 times by the Rams.
I mean, it's a huge delta between how he was against the Chiefs. I mean, he had if I had to guess, at least 50 rushing yards. I mean, use your legs, man. I mean, every quarterback in this league can only be successful if they use their legs. They have to. They have to.
The Rams' defensive line is very good, though. I mean, Jared Verse being out there, second-year rusher for the Rams. They can smother a quarterback, and they did in this game. So I think it's good to see that the Rams are having this game. It's good to see the Jacksonville Jaguars come back to earth as well, because this is more their wheelhouse right here. 7 points in the game. Yeah. Hate it. Bengals beat the Steelers 33-31 in a comeback
shootout.
Joe Flacco shootout.
AARP Bowl. Yeah.
Yep. Huge game for Joe Flacco though. Second game playing with the Bengals, and the Jamar Chase connection is already strong. Jamar Chase is all over the field.
Right?
Yeah, it's something like that. It was wild. And
catches. Yeah.
It's funny to see a quarterback that actually has good weapons around him can actually make plays.
You could tell he was also shocked. I saw
for sure.
on highlight, and Jamar Chase dropped a ball, and they panned to Flacco, and Flacco was like, "Whoa, dropped one."
Yeah. I think the Bengals are going to do well. I think they'll be able to stay above water for Joe Burrow to come back. Joe squared there in Cincinnati. I think that'll be a good tandem. And if there are any other injuries for Joe Burrow, I think Joe Flacco is a great replacement. We've seen it so far. Hopefully, he can continue the success. But it's wild to see what's happened with Joe Flacco when he came into Cleveland off the couch, played really well last season, and this year coming over to the Cincinnati Bengals, being there for a week and a half and putting up a performance like this against a pretty good Steelers team this year. Aaron Rodgers has been doing very well for the Steelers so far, and it looks like this is going to be the one year where they actually break out of that 9-8, 8-9 record that we're used to seeing for the Steelers every year. I think the Aaron Rodgers-led Steelers will definitely break through that mold this season.
Yeah, not a lot to say about the Steelers. I don't watch their games, but their defense is ass. Our offense is fine. I mean, you would never think to say that about the Steelers, that their defense isn't good, but the numbers don't lie. They let up a lot of points. Yeah, and I'm all about Joe Flacco. He comes in, he's like a consultant. You know, he's smart. He can do the job, but has no emotional attachment to the organization. You could see that from when he was sitting on the sideline next to Joe Burrow after the game-winning field goal. Joe Burrow was like, "Yeah," and Joe Flacco literally just like this, like no emotion, just in there, wins the game. Moving on to my next organization to fill in the holes. So yeah, great game. Honestly, for a Thursday night game, Kirk and what's
Al Michaels
have been lucky.
They've had really good games this season. Very good games this season.
They have.
I think only one game has been more than 7 points or something this year. Like the end result has been a win less than 7 points. So it's been very, very good football on Thursday Night Football this year.
Compared to the first season where Al Michaels was publicly bitching about how bad the games were, it's great to see Al be excited about these games.
Yep, as excited as he can be.
As excited as he can be. I'm sure he loves the buffet at halftime more, though.
Yeah, he probably does.
He likes to talk about the buffet at halftime.
He does. Let's talk about these picks for this week, in week 8, starting off with Thursday Night Football.
Okay. Yeah, Thursday Night Football should be a doozy. We got the Chargers and the Vikings.
Carson Wentz is starting for the Vikings again. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to get the Carson Wentz show again. It should be his last time. I expect him to be put under more pressure this time around. He was able to kind of maneuver freely last game. I also am really riding on just the fact that the Chargers shouldn't lose 3 in a row. I mean, they're a solid team. Justin Herbert's a solid quarterback. I'm just riding on the money line, though. I'm taking money line. Chargers money line. I don't like the spread. I think the Vikings are good enough to keep it close, and the spread's 3.5. Pay a little bit more for money line. Take the Chargers money line.
Okay. Let's move on to the early slate in the NFL on Sunday.
Oh, yeah. The early and the afternoon slates are good. At least there's a good opportunity in each. So, Falcons, I think at Dolphins. I can't remember. Though it doesn't matter who has home field advantage.
Dolphins at Falcons.
Dolphins out Falcons. Okay, so we're in the dome, so conditions don't matter. I really like the over on this one. It's 44.5. This is why. Number one, the Dolphins rank 26 in total yards allowed and then 32 in rushing yards allowed. Guess who's plays for the Falcons? You got Bijan Robinson. He's going to run up the throat. The Falcons are also a bounce-back team. They lose on the road to the Panthers. They get absolutely crushed 30-0. Then the next week they come back. I can't remember the opponent, but they win. They lose to the Bills. Great game. Or they win to the Bills. Great game. We're now at a point, I think, where we're like offsetting some of these. We're offsetting that win that they had. They lost last week. I'm sorry. I apologize. They lost last week. It was 2 weeks ago when they beat the Bills. So they lost last week. They still produce points. However, the Dolphins are terrible at defense, but can still produce points, and so can the Falcons. Give me the over on that. It's 44.5. Come on, let's go. I'll take it.
Okay. Over 44.5 for that game. The late slate for Sunday.
Yeah. I think America. I don't know how America feels about this. I just based this off of what Stephen A. Smith says because I watch a lot of Stephen A. Smith on First Take. But the Cowboys. I like watching the Cowboys. I think they rank number 1 overall in the league in points or in points produced. Love that about them. They're going into Denver, and okay, we got McMillan, we got Jones, we got Patrick Surtain, we got this stud group of defense. This year, well, Danny Dimes went in there, and I'm pretty sure, or not Danny Dimes, Jackson Dart went in there last week and put up like 30 plus points. Okay. I think Dak in the squad with better weapons and Dak's a better quarterback. The play is over 23.5 total points. Give me that. The I don't know what the stat is on the Cowboys, how many points they produce per game. Guarantee you it's over 23.5, and I guarantee you it's by at least a field goal if they do
For
that.
the last 5 games.
For the last 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Give me that number right there. I'm pretty sure they're going into Denver. Okay, fine. As long as the weather's nice, hopefully it is. I don't know how. I mean, that could be a factor. Dak's little dome self might be affected, but it'll be a challenge. It'll be a test. But yeah, give me especially after last week and watching the freaking Broncos win the game. That was a fluke. I do not expect that to happen again. I expect I expect the Cowboys to cover big time.
And then Dre Greenlaw is out as well for the Broncos. So.
Oh, wow.
Another player is going to be out.
Yeah.
Sunday Night Football, Green Bay Packers versus the Steelers.
Aaron Rodgers is going to be an all-time ayahuasca trip. They're going to cover the spread. I'll tell you that right now. It's plus 3.5. They'll probably even win the game. Jordan Love is inconsistent. I think at that, and just the fact that Aaron Rodgers is going to want to win. And like we just talked about, I think the Steelers offense is solid. It could be a shootout. And at the end of it, I would expect that all-time ayahuasca trip to just cover that margin that we need.
At plus 3, do you still like it?
At plus 3, yeah. I mean, you push if they lose by a field goal, but I think they win the game, honestly. I would never take the money line, but I'd always take the points. I think they cover for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. 3.5, yeah.
Last but not least, the Washington Commanders versus the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I logged on and I was looking at spreads and I'm like, why is it 12.5? Then I remember that Jaden Daniels is out again, and I didn't realize that Jaden Daniels is out. So Chiefs spread. I mean, how can you not after the performance last week? Is it Jaden is out and our defense can produce against Marcus? I assume it's Marcus Mariota playing quarter.
Yep, it is. 1 second.
If an NFL team can cover 12.5 point spreads in a week, I'd love to look back at that stat and see how often that's happened in the last 3 years. I mean, maybe the Bills have done it. Maybe the Ravens have done it. But 12.5 point spreads are far in between here in the NFL. So I like the Chiefs there at the end.
Okay. So we'll look at this just a second. And we'll show your numbers. I'm just trying to get up the screen share here while we're looking at this. We'll look at the Hall of Fame app to see what those statistics look like for your picks this week. So let's switch on over to that app. Hall of Fame app here. Here are the picks that Alex has. So Minnesota at the Chargers. Looks like Chargers money line to win over 44.5 for the Falcons-Dolphins game. Cowboys over 23.5 total points, team points for that game. Packers and Steelers plus 3, and the Commanders at Chiefs. And it looks like it's at least 50% probability, if not more, like in the Pittsburgh case here, 60% chance of probability. Overall, 3.8% chance of this hitting. If you did it as a parlay, it would be plus 2,532 as the implied odds. So on DraftKings, you have the best odds for this parlay if you wanted to go there. If you want to do FanDuel, like I typically do, it'd be a little bit less than the implied odds. It'd be plus 1871. So use that for what it is. And you can also do these as singles as well. That's probably the best way to do it, straights. So I would probably suggest doing it that way. But if you wanted to go a little, throw down some few bucks on this parlay, then give a pretty good payout at the end of the day. So,
And if you're a new DraftKings customer, bet 5, get 150 in bonus bets.
hey, you just need your own code now. Peepers Picks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we get like a PP going or something like that? That'd be good.
We need to figure out maybe Hall of Fame could potentially sponsor this segment.
Let's get a positive record here first before we.
Yeah,
start
let's do
to,
that. Let's do that.
We need to build some.
Because last year we were about 50% for your picks. This year, 2 and 3.
2 and 3. Yeah, we'll get there now.
We will get there. But yeah, that's all we have for this evening. Thanks everybody for jumping on and watching the show. Thanks for Charlie and Dad for hopping in the chat this evening. If you haven't done so yet already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to the audio podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to get your support there. Thanks so much for watching this week. Thanks, Alex, for joining us once again with the Peepers Picks. We'll see you all next week right here on Out of Bounds.